Hello everybody, thank you for joining me for this brief thought on the parasha of Lech Lecha. The US presidential election takes place this coming Tuesday. The destiny of the whole world is seen to hang in the balance. After all, the USA holds nearly 30% of all the wealth in the world. Its army is the mightiest in the world. Its culture, technology and language are ubiquitous and the envy of many. The story of Abram, which we begin reading this week, actually gives us an insight into how Jews should view current affairs. Abram was having a good time in Haran. The Torah mentions that he and Sarai had created souls there. They had been spreading the word about monotheism, and with some success. They were settled and they headed a religious community. Then God steps into the picture and everything for a while goes completely pear-shaped. God tells Abram to decamp to Israel with Sarai because it is to be their promised land. On the way, all the people whom Abram and Sarai had brought to monotheism drop out of the narrative because they didn't fancy moving to a strange country for no good reason. As soon as Abram and Sarai arrive in Israel, famine strikes and they have to leave for Egypt, a decadent and threatening empire. On arrival, Sarai is abducted and taken to the royal palace, and Pharaoh handles the PR by showering Abram with gifts. No doubt everyone is jealous of Abram for his royal connection and his wealth, but Abram himself is desperate and aggrieved about his wife. Abram could well look back on what had happened and have a bragus with God. Before God came into the picture, all was well. Now, since God had interfered, Abram had lost his home, his community, and his wife. The promise that God had made to him, descendants, a whole country for himself, blessings for himself and the whole world, looked to have been snatched from him. No land. He was a refugee from famine in that land that had been promised to him. No descendants. His wife was no longer with him. No blessing for himself or others. His position among the Egyptian high-ups was precarious and built on a lie. And what would happen if his lie was uncovered? But Abram never wavered. He knew that God had it all under control and that all would be well. He sat in his hotel in Egypt with Pharaoh's presents arriving every day and serenely waited. And thus God delivered the goods. Sarai was delivered from Pharaoh's clutches when God plagued the royal household, and Abram returned to Israel. The famine ended with great wealth. Let's rerun the story, but with diminished faith on Abram's part. He would have heard the call from God, but decided not to strike out into the unknown. He would have remained with his community in Haran, obscure and soon to be forgotten. There would have been no promised land, no blessed people of blessings, no high bar of faith set for us and for the world, no hope in times of trouble. Not only did adversity pose a test for Abram and Sarai, it actually brought them the blessings that God had predicted. And thus I tell you now, on the eve of this great election, we see as much as Abram and Sarai did when they received the call from God. Our vision is short range, blurry and misleading. But the faith in God that we have inherited from our grandparents Abram and Sarai is unshakable and magnificent, offering serenity, happiness and a bright future, even if the news won't be what we might hope for. So if it's Trump or if it's Biden, it actually doesn't really matter. Every time we walk into shul, we vote for God. Whether we understand his plan or not, whether people help him or not, he has always helped us to survive because of our faith in him, and it always will. Thanks for listening.